Good morning. Welcome to our presentation about QuickBooks reports. Today, we're going to talk about how to run, customize, and understand company reports for contractors using QuickBooks desktop version. During this session, where we will be navigating back and forth between a presentation and having live navigation with QuickBooks desktop screen sharing sessions. Greg Hansen will be presenting and I will be assisting him. I'm Carrie Bullion. We both work for Project Solutions and are the DBE Supportive Services provider for South Dakota. This is one of many trainings that we do. So check back at our website or talk to us about other trainings that are available. If you have questions, we're happy to help you at any point during this session. Feel free to raise your hand. I can unmute you so that you can ask questions. You can also type questions into the question box or the chat box in order to communicate with us, and we will get to you as fast as we can. This report or this presentation is using QuickBooks, which has become one of the #1 accounting softwares for small business, and is by far one of the easiest softwares to use. We can help with other software or things like that as well. So contact us outside of this session for questions about other platforms. We're going to start today with a number of learning objectives. We've got a full plate in front of us. We will review preference settings and the chart of accounts. Then we'll talk about running financial reports, including the profit and loss statement and balance sheet, how to create subtotals. We also look at customizing a report's view. There's a lot of different ways that you can sort things, change your data range, page layout, collapse and expand. There's a lot of options, and we'll work through different ways to use them. Then we'll talk about producing reports and by the different time periods and how that can be useful to your business. We'll also work on setting up some comparative reports, looking at analysis pointers, look at how to spot abnormalities, bookkeeping errors that we often see, or possible posting errors. Then we'll talk about some job cost reports, how to double check billing status, how to spot costs not assigned to jobs, and then how to export information to Excel so you can use that and format and change your page layout. Again, as we work on these, if you have questions, please ask, or you can contact us outside of this to work on that as well. At this point, I am going to turn things over to Greg so that he can share a lot of wisdom with you.
All right, thank you. Like I said, Carrie and Elizabeth are running the PowerPoint, and we'll use the QuickBooks sample company quality build construction. So let me make sure that we were testing this beforehand. Make sure can you see my QuickBooks screen, Carrie?
No, you're on the opposite one.
How about that?
Yes. All
right. So one of the things that's overlooked in the programming QuickBooks is the preferences. So I wonder if you can. Carrie can't see me. Can you see my mouse moving, Carrie?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. I want to go up here to edit and preferences. And if you haven't used this much, there's a lot of programming in here, as you can see. We're talking about reports today. So I'm just going to click on here. Make sure that you're running reports on an accrual basis so that it defaults. QuickBooks will default to run reports on an accrual basis. Cash basis is great for tax purposes, but for running a business, you always want to be using the accrual basis. So start there. Again, if you haven't, we can help you with programming any of these topics and how you set up your QuickBooks. So accrual basis. I think the next slide, Carrie, if you want to take it back for a minute, we're going to talk about chart of accounts. The chart of accounts is also probably one of the first things you do when you set up a QuickBooks, and then you can change the layout of this later on if need be. But let's talk about it here before we get into the report. So this creates the skeleton of your accounting reports. And as you set up your accounts, you need to ask yourself, is the account, is it a job labor? Is it job materials? Is it a subcontractor? What's the difference between a long-term asset and a short-term asset, or like an expense? Is it an operating expense? Is it a liability, draws, and so on? So, so now I'm going to click back to my QuickBooks. And Carrie, again, if you can let me know if you've.
Oops. Sorry, it's 30 clicks, but there you go. For some reason, you're muted. Sorry.
There we go. Okay, I was wondering, can you see my QuickBooks now? Okay, all right. Sorry about that, gang. Handing the baton back and forth here. So yeah, so chart of accounts, again, as I said, is the skeleton of your accounting system, and you can see this is the view that starts with typically the first one is current assets or your bank accounts, and then it rolls through the whole list of the different accounts you use in your business. And so you want to make sure that you structure these the way you want. I can show you a couple nifty things about this. If you, in your preferences, have turned on the numbering system, it will default. You can see these numbers go from biggest to smallest, or smallest to biggest. But you can also slide, and you can move them like I just did in that one. Okay. Also, if you want to make an account a sub account, you can do it this way, where you can go to edit account, and you can make it a sub account right here, which is easy to do. But what's easier is to just slide it over like that. That now is a sub account of 1570 land purchases. I don't want to do that. So chart of accounts, make sure you have your accounts set up the way you want, and as you think about, is it an expense, is it an asset purchase, is it a liability, etc. So if you have questions on, of course, on any of these, we're able to help you individually. We can do the screen share like we're doing right now, or you can share your screen with us and we can navigate with you through it. So chart of accounts and preferences. Before we start getting into reports, those are a couple of things we need to discuss first. So Carrie, do you want to bring back the next slide about our first report?
Yep.
This is a screenshot of the profit loss under report, and we're gonna click back over to QuickBooks here momentarily. But you can see the different options across the top that you can choose from. Profit loss is one of the most common reports that you're going to want to run. So let me point out here, we're using QuickBooks sample company quality built construction, and for some reason it says it thinks it's 2026. I don't know, I don't know where they get that date or how that works, but so anyway, so as you look at those dates, I think it thinks it's December 15th, 2026. So let's switch back to QuickBooks again and go through the different options on running this report and things you can do to customize it. So again, people navigate QuickBooks differently depending on. I like to use this top toolbar. That's just me. There's the reports. There's a lot there. Company and financial. We go to profit and loss standard. And I want to make sure that I can change. So again, the computer QuickBooks thinks it's 2026 December 15th, and I want to change the date range. I want just last month. And the reason I want to make yourself a note here that run reports for months that are closed. So again, it's December 15th. November should be fairly well up to date. So if you run reports for December, for example, a lot of it's not in there, obviously, so the report might not be meaningful. So I'm going to say last month. So you can see my report here, it says it's November 2026. And the date range is that. We're going to go over the changes here. This is I want to show you the sort function. So default is, it's going to print the report based on how you set up your chart of accounts. Say you want to change it. You want to do a little more analysis on it. So you can change the way it sorts, and you'll look, and I want to switch to make it the biggest to smallest. You can see that it has changed the layout. So the largest expenses show up first. And so it's in descending order, right? So, if you want to, here the largest expense is officers' labor. Job materials is the largest job cost of goods sold. So you can switch it back and forth depending on your need, but you can see how it's an option that you can use. Default, again, is based on the way you set up your chart of accounts and your initial setup. Okay. Another option I really like that this is the detail, and then QuickBooks has these drop downs. So anywhere there's a drop down, you can collapse that one. See how, so all the job costs, all the job labor costs are just one number, or if I need the detail, I can see that. Depending on what your purpose is for this report, are you going to print it? Are you going to share it? And so expenses becomes one number. Here, I want payroll expenses office. I just want the subtotal. See how that works? So, or you can collapse it. I can even just make it just like that. So these arrows are a really unique feature. Again, this goes back to how your chart of accounts is set up. These are sub accounts that it will compress or condense the reports based on how you set it up. So again, depending on the analysis or who's the audience for the report, some really unique tools, something to think about on how to use that. We're going to go through some of these other options later on as we go through some of these other reports. So the next one is the balance sheet. Carrie, I don't know if you want to take it back for a minute, or.
Yep, I can do that.
Okay, we can. Are we on? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so if the profit and loss is probably the most common or one of the most popular reports, balance sheet is second. Yeah. So here again, we're going to, based on the chart of accounts, the way you set it up, we could print a compressed or expanded version of our balance sheet, and we're going to go back to our QuickBooks Live to navigate through that. So Carrie, just let me know if you can see my screen. Oh, here we go. I got to click on that first. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I go to my balance sheet standard. Again, check the date up here. So here's our standard balance sheet, and it's in the expanded mode. You can see the drop downs are all open up. So I'm seeing all the detail of my balance sheet. So the date comes up as today. Well, again, backing up a little bit, most of the processing for December probably isn't done yet. So this report might not be very meaningful. But I want to back the date up to say November 30th. I want to hit refresh, thinking that by now I should hopefully have the checking account reconciled. Your billing is done for the month, or maybe not. But anyway, make sure before you run these reports or want to hang your hat on them, that you have the date inclusive of when you've got your work completed. Just as in the profit and loss and all the reports, I can click on these arrows and I can get the condensed report. Very simple, or the expanded one. I don't want the high level. I want the detail. Okay. Sort again, and we can. So this is the standard report is based on the chart of accounts. But if I want to look at it in base of smallest to biggest, then you can see that how that resorts it. I can reverse that. So there's, I guess for sharing with your either a lender or bonding companies, you want to give them this report. But for analysis internally, you maybe want to see the other version where you can see the largest numbers first. It's a little bit different analysis tool. So the balance sheet, again, these drop downs are very handy.
Now, Greg, when you chose these reports to run, you went to standard both times. Can you just explain what the other options are, or why you would go to standard versus one of the other reports for profit and loss or balance sheet?
Well, that's coming up. So we're gonna.
Oh, it's next.
Yeah. So some of the customization, you see this icon right here, customized report. There's a lot there, but some of those same options are in this right here. So the next slide up, as you mentioned, that is our comparative balance sheet, or I'm sorry, our comparative profit loss. So if we can just go, so year to date, I always do a previous year comparison. This is, to me, is very useful information, and to see trends from this year to next year. To last year. And again, I want to always double check your dates. Make sure you're looking at correct period. Now watch closely. This is, so now we're going to customize this report. Another screen, and you can see the filters, headers. You want to change the title of the report, you can. You want to change the font. You want negative numbers to be printed in red, et cetera, et cetera. Filters, we're going to cover those in a little bit, but for financial reports, you're not going to want to do many filters because you want it to be everything. But let's go to this display, and I want to click right here on display columns by month. And now, so I've got 11 months of history here, and it's showing me January. I'm going to scroll across. Each month is taking up 4 columns. April. So I can see month by month, side by side, a trend for the whole year. Again, if I customize this, I want to shrink it up a little bit. I want to take off these measurements of dollar change or percent change. And again, then you can see, for example, September. This year was $33,500 of revenue. The year before was $143,400. And over in the year, it will total it so you can see the total if you want. So you can, again, you You can customize this to be by month, by week. Some people will do it by quarter. Again, make sure you have the dates range that you are including. Here, you notice no drop. There's no way to this report. I can collapse it, but I can't. Okay. There's just all kinds of options here. So that's why, again, QuickBooks is so easy to use. If you've got the right processes and the right closing date set, you can run reports quickly, customize them as you go. So, okay. Let's do the same thing for a balance sheet. Again, here is a balance sheet. I customize it. Say I'm going to say, let's say this fiscal year. I want to back it up to November because I know I'm not done in December, and I want it by month. Now QuickBooks will print the balance sheet what it was at the end of each month for whatever time frame I've chosen, and I've chosen the current fiscal year. Again, if I want to, I can turn some of these off, and you can see trends. This is really useful to see trends. Talk a couple, our cash this year is considerably higher than the year before. Receivables are lower. Fixed assets have remained the same. Accounts payable, there's something going on last year that made that a negative number. Current liabilities are down a little bit. Long-term liabilities are down a little bit, just monthly payments probably. Year to date, net income by month is shown. If you get used to using these reports, this is very useful information to be able to see it in this format. Yep. So customizing the reports. Again, for financial reports, I'm not going to cover filters here because there's really, I don't want to filter anything. I want everything included. If you want to customize your report, here's some options here that you can do. Okay. I'm going to show you on this how to make a subtotal. For example, on this, you can see how machinery and vehicles is got a subtotal of $71,957. If I go to my chart of accounts, we'll see that right here, how that is set up. You know, I can turn again. Remember, I can make these all not sub accounts of that. Oops, not that one. Unit depreciation. Okay. And I want to this now if I run this report again, let's make sure my date is correct. And I've lost that subtotal. So again, it's had a category heading, and then I made them set up sub accounts. If you need help with your system, let us know. We can talk you through this. So pretty neat feature of chart accounts and how to create sub accounts and subtotals. Okay, Carrie, you want to take back the, see, I think the next slide is about, we're talking about job costing reports. Well, before we do, Carrie, there was one thing I forgot to point out on this. On the, if you want to go on the comparative on the balance sheet, I forgot to point out something.
Okay.
On this MasterCard's payable, it's got a negative number. And that, that's kind of a jumps off the page to me. And I know how this happens. Anybody speculate on how this happens? Well, usually the bank statement or the credit card statement comes in the mail and it says the payment due is 1,000 or whatever it is, and that amount gets put in as a payment against that payable. What's not happening though is the charges that were applied to that credit card are not being posted. So as I look at this, I immediately know that the receipts that apply to the charges on that card are not being entered. And the payment is being made because it has to be. And that's the only thing that's getting recorded consistently is the payment. And that's making that number go negative. So in other words, there's job costs out there or purchases that are being made that are not being captured in the accounting system. So if you look at yours, if you're just making the payment on the credit card and how you're recording that, it have implications for your job costs and your overhead. So wanted to point that out so that also there's a negative number on the checking accounts. So you want to reconcile those. Once you get in the routine of reconciling them each month, it goes pretty smooth. So, but you can reconcile all these liabilities as well. Doesn't take long once you've got the routine set up. So yeah, this is a common this credit card payable or any loan payable that has a debit balance. Means you're paying it down, but you haven't recorded the charges. Okay, so okay. We did the comparative balance sheet. So yeah, so let's talk about some of the reports just for contractors. The one that we look at the most often is the job cost summary report. Again, I want to make sure you have the right cutoff. Am I on QuickBooks yet? Carrie, are we? Can you see my QuickBooks? Oh, sorry. Oh, I need to click here. My QuickBooks on available there?
Yep.
Okay. So for, hopefully you're doing job costing in your business. We've covered that topic a number of times, and that's not belittle that point, but that's essential in the construction business. So, and this is just so we ran a job profitability summary. This is each job that's active again through the November 30th. With custom range, and you can see the profitability on each of these reports. And you can do a zoom, and you're probably familiar with that. If you want to compress them, you can do that. Under some of these people, there's multiple jobs. So assuming all of your job costs have been quoted to each of these jobs, there's a report that I want to point out to you. Expenses not assigned to jobs. So it's under job costing. So let's look. This is, I'm not sure what's in here, but as I look at So this is expenses not assigned to jobs. And this is, let's just say this for last month. For 1 month. Each of these, so they bought some gas and oil, online payment to a credit card, the meals, and these are overhead. So these are probably all the rent, office supplies. But I'm looking for a job cost. Maybe it's a subcontractor or materials that were used on a job that didn't get assigned to a job. So each of these, telephone is overhead, advertising is overhead, pay the insurance bill, that's overhead. So tools and machinery, small tools that could be, those aren't job costs. Postage, you get the point though. So if you run this report, a month at a time, and look for items that should have been charged to a job. This is a nifty report, and I don't think it gets used very much, but we found, I think it's very helpful. So there's the use of it. So anyway, again, when I run this report, or when you run this report, you want to these job cost reports. If November's billing hasn't been done, then there's some of these jobs are going to look, not going to look very good. So make sure before you put a lot of credence in the report, make sure you have your cutoff done. So another really useful report is P&L by job, profit and loss by job. Again, I want to make sure I get set my dates. I want to hit refresh. So this is the new construction cottage for Albert Cruz. Revenue, job materials, so far for in that month. You want to change the width of the reports. You can do that by dragging them. I made my mouse a little bigger so it's easier to see. And this is all active jobs. So this is a hard report to read, right? I mean, it goes on and on. Let's look at some options here. I want to customize this report. I want to filter. I want to show only the active jobs, or how you code them in your. Remember, when you set up a customer, you can assign the status of that job using one of these parameters. So if you want to say, Joe, I want this report to be only the ones that are in progress. So it makes the report much easier to read. So you want to filter out the jobs that are not being used. So the filters, there's a lot of options here. And I think this is where you're going to want to use these filters on job cost reports and not the financial reports. So, okay. So profit and loss by job. So this is a horizontal report versus the job profitability summary is a vertical report. This is very easy to read, easy to see. Then if you want to drill down on it, you can do job profitability detail on let's see if we go to Albert Cruz. There's a cottage. And we can see the detail of that. And again, if you can collapse the reports, do you want the whole job? Do you want just last month? So, okay. I want to show you another, if you use Excel very much, QuickBooks has the option to export any report to Excel. And going to answer some questions. A new one, you can update an existing one. And it takes. One thing I've done, I have it open. Whoops, here we go. So this is that report exported, and I've added a column over here where I want to see the gross profit. Some of these jobs are just, there's no revenue on them, so it's not useful, but you can see how you can program this to see what your gross profit margin is on each job by exporting it to Excel. Really a marvelous feature of QuickBooks reports is being able to export them to Excel, any report, and move the data for analysis depending on your situation. Okay. I think, Carrie, I don't think we have a slide for it, but I'd like to just talk about memorizing reports.
Oh, good, because I wrote that down while you were talking. That's one of my favorite features of QuickBooks is you can customize these reports to be exactly what you want.
Right,
and so you can use them regularly.
Yes, so you can, in the report you run, you see the option here to memorize it, and you can set it up by groups. And sure, I've never used that. And then you can have, I don't know if you heard that snapshot. Then I go to reports, I go to memorize reports, and I can see all the reports that I have memorized. And if you have a special one where you want a lot of filtering done, it's a great way to do billing or job cost specifics on each individual job. So just got to change the date and away you go. So, and memorize. And say, no, I don't want to cancel. I don't want to. So, yeah. And so instead of what we went through all these individual reports. We didn't talk about payroll reports, but that's another whole other topic. But another one, I guess why we was, what's our aging analysis? This I do want current as of today. See, hopefully so many people have paid, so there's only one invoice in here. So again, memorize. I can memorize this. I want this, and I want to share. I want to put this in my. I want the company. I want my project managers to see this, so they know when our customers have or haven't paid their bill. They can see that information. Okay. There's watching somebody navigate with a mouse sometimes is confusing, but I hope you can see how this can be used in your business. If you want to take control back, Carrie, we can go over some pointers. This is my list, Carrie. So you guys have some others that add to this. Let's go through those here. I've said several of them. Double check the date range. Make sure the postings are complete to the end of the selected report period. Otherwise, your reports might not be very useful. We touched on the profit and loss, how to run a profit and loss statement or a balance sheet report. I would always use the financial reports, the comparative financial reports. So you can see apples, not apples for apples, but this period against last period, what's the trend? Are sales up or down in this time period? Bookkeeping errors, bills posted to the posting date, not the date of the transaction. So you notice in our QuickBooks we were using, it automatically came up with today's date, which is December 15th, 2026. But if you're entering bills for November, it's going to automatically come up with that December date. So you want to make sure the actual date of the transaction is being used. So if we want to talk about getting good financial reports, job cost reports, some of the details in the bookkeeping part of it is where the problems start. So having policies and processes from the beginning is really helpful. Another one, is it classifying purchases as an asset or an expense? Train your bookkeeping staff to know as well. So as the invoices or the bills come in, it's being coded correctly. Is it anything over $1,000 is an asset?
Or 2,500, depending on the company and what they set up.
Right. So, if you're buying something that has a long life, if you're buying a generator or whatever. So if it's a big generator, maybe that's an asset. So anyway, just make sure that you do it consistently, and the bookkeeping people know how to do that. So whether it's with a check or a credit card, that they have that. Speaking of credit cards, post credit card charges like a bill. Treat each transaction as if it was a purchase by itself and not just one lump sum on a credit card. There's a couple of my pointers. Carrie, can you think of any other pointers?
Yeah, I think you covered it, but adding it to the pointer list would be good. Just, it's so important that you reconcile your accounts on a timely basis every month so that when you run your reports, they're actually accurate and up to date. And along with that, I run into a lot of people that I've worked with where they get behind on entering things. And especially if you've got multiple people in the books, somebody might have found the information that didn't get entered on a timely basis and put it in so they can reconcile an account appropriately. But then somebody goes back to correct it, and you'll get a warning error from QuickBooks saying, don't do this or you'll mess up your reconciliations. And people do it anyway. And then it's a pain to fix it.
Can you give me back QuickBooks?
Yes, I can.
So, where do I see?
Sorry, that took me longer than I planned. There we go.
Okay. So in your QuickBooks, gang, you can go over here to, we talked about preferences. And under accounting, company here, you can set a password or a closing date. So what you just said, Carrie, so the bank statement's been reconciled and somebody else makes a transaction in November. Well, that screws up everything going forward because of that. Well, you can create a password so that they can't accidentally or make a change to last month's because the books have been closed. And also over here on users, you can set up users and their roles of what they can and cannot do so that they can't accidentally do. So if you hire someone to process your accounts payable, all he or she needs to be able to do is that piece of it. And you can set up there so they can't inadvertently make those and your permissions. And so anyway, so what you mentioned made me think of this. So you can set up a preference, which requires a closing date and a password, so people can't backdate transactions that could affect something that's already been done.
Yeah.
That's a good topic.
The other thing I think worth mentioning is making sure that payments get entered correctly. Just like when you enter bills appropriately as an expense or an asset, or you make sure you're tracking all of that through the system. I do see a lot of people that when they go to, receive payments on different invoices, they'll try to just cheat and like decrease the amount of the sale so it represents, just making sure that you receive payments, enter them as a check or cash, however they're received, and put in that check number and put those details in, because it's just going to make the reconciliations and all the other things go more smoothly. I know that's more granular and it's not as much about running the reports.
That's where the problems start, though. That's where the problems start, though, Carrie. It's very granular. Can you see my QuickBooks now?
Yeah, you're still on power.
So I go to the use register. So here's the bank register, right? Here's the check register. So I would say, so we got a check today from Albert I don't know. So here, here. So we got a check today for $5,000, and I'm gonna call this construction income. So what did I just do?
You put some money in, but you don't know what it's for.
I created a $5,000 sale. I created a $5,000 sale, but unbeknownst to me or the operator, we created an invoice for, who was that? Albert, somebody, whatever. There's an invoice out there for $5,000. That payment should have been applied against that invoice, because when I create the invoice, that creates the sale. But now I've just doubled it up. The accounts receivable is still there, but the payment's been, so now instead of having $5,000 of revenue, I have $10,000 of revenue. And the bill that Mr. whatever his name was, I can't remember.
I think it was Albert Cruz, was it that?
Yeah, Albert Cruz still has a receivable due of $5,000. So
he's not going to like it when he gets his bill and it doesn't show his payment.
That's right. That's right. Or when you look at your monthly P&L and go, wow, that's a good month. We had a lot of sales. But anyway, that goes back to account reconciliation. So, but we see that what I just did. We see that often where they'll record. They got a check in the mail and they'll go in here and they'll use this check register and do it instead of following this. We're using desktop. I know some people are using online. QuickBooks Online for construction company has got a lot of hindrances, but I don't want to. But anyway, if you follow this logic of this chart, I think it's very useful. You get a bill, you enter the bill, you pay the bill, you do work, you create the invoice, you receive payment against the invoice, stuff like that. So I try to avoid. There's a lot of people try to work around. Is that they try to create shortcuts just to get past where they need to get past, and don't realize the implications of that downstream. So
yeah, and if you're ever thinking about switching from online to the desktop version, we help people with that process all the time because there are so many benefits to what you can do with the information you have on desktop that you don't get with online version.
Yeah, for job costing and payroll, it's got a lot of limitations for. I know their QuickBooks is really pushing the online because I guess it must be more profitable for them. But for a lot of the businesses that we work with and the industries we're in, the online version doesn't have enough features. So I'm sure we can go on and we can talk all day about the little itty bitty things we've seen about paying people created for themselves, but just trying to shortcuts. If your bookkeeper's not giving you this information, I'm sorry, you got to run your business by the numbers. If you don't have the numbers, it is very difficult, impossible to know where you're going. And you need, here it is, it's April 19th today. I want to know what happened in March by now, or I'm going to be looking for someone for answers. So anyway.
There's really no excuse to not be caught up by this point.
Just saying, yeah, that you can't, you're slimming, your boat still never rudder. Anyway, okay.
So as we look at wrapping up this training, I've got a summary slide here about, just making sure that you guys know that all enrolled DBE firms are eligible for training at no cost to you, whether it's about QuickBooks or other business services and business development that we provide. If you live far away from us, we can screen share and do trainings that way, or you can come into the office for trainings. We can help you with QuickBooks and programming and learning how to use all the features available. We can help you set up business plans, work with loan applications and getting paperwork ready for that. HR questions, marketing, finance, lots of things that we can support you with. We also work on employee recruitment and retention. And, if you have questions now or later, we're here. You're not limited to asking us right now. We can help you in the future as well. We've got our contact information here. for Greg, myself, and then also Elizabeth S., who works in our office, so we can get you in touch with the right person to help you for any of those situations.
So the screen sharing, we've helped a couple people in 20 minutes or half hour of screen sharing. We have helped them solve a problem that's been festering for some time in their company, bookkeeping wise. And so it's painless and it goes quick. So again, if you're enrolled in the DB program, it's available to you at no cost. So.
Yeah. So thank you everyone who attended today. I don't see any questions on the system right now, but if you think of anything later, please be in touch and let us know. You can call us or set up an appointment either way. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, everybody.